Namaskar. I welcome you to this afternoon, this evening, one more evening of a lecture series through the invitation by Shreshth Sangam, to whom I'm very, very grateful, to Mehek Chawla and Heman Joshi and all the other team who is there. I'm really, really happy to have this chance to share different experiences and this journey, this really interesting journey that has been for me, Mayurbanj Chhau, and being here in India and living all of that in the dance field. So once again, I'm really, really grateful, very happy, and definitely I thank all of you who are watching, who are taking the time to connect, to tune into this space. I invite you to my home, and I hope that I can share all this really very vast universe, which is this dance that not many people know about. So once again, thank you so much. And before I begin, I would like to take a moment of silence, of meditation. Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupam Shravastamam Jyeshtaraja Brahmanam Brahmanaspatana Shrimbanuti Visida Sadhanam. Om Maha Ganapataye Namaha. Om Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarantam Karishyami Siddhe Bhavatu Me Sada. So I'd like to give a small introduction about myself. My name is Carolina Prada. I come from Colombia in South America, and I've been living here in India since 2008. I came here to learn Odissi dance, and I came with an ICCR scholarship in 2008. Previously I had already trained for a couple of years in Odissi, and I had got to know also about Mayurbanj Chhau, and I was really captivated by it and wondering if I would have the chance to learn it, like really keen on finding somebody or just a school to learn it. And well, I was fortunate enough that the place where I came to learn Odissi, my guru was there. He was teaching there at that time. Many people also recommended other schools, but I said, okay, no, I'll stay here. This is a good place. And before that, before coming to India, I started training in different martial arts and in different dance forms. I started training in around to the year 2000, 2002, in a school which is called the Five Elements School, Escuela Los Cinco Elementos, in my hometown, Medellin. And the guru there is Omar Granados, and he had come to India several times to study different things, ranging like from massage, meditations, and he was a martial artist for many years. So he also wanted to know about the martial practices here and the dance parts. So he came to Colombia, to Medellin, with all this information, and he put up a school there. So I started training in different practices, martial arts, yoga also, stretching, just basically building up the capacity or the potential that my body could have. And then through that school, I got to know about Odissi dance. There was a teacher in Mexico, her name is Kena Acosta, and we had the fortune to bring her to Colombia, and that's how I started learning Indian classical dance, mainly Odissi. So after years of self-practice, I just came to, I started looking for a way to come to India, and I got to know about, I was searching, and I wrote to many people until finally one day I got the answer from ICCR, and they were saying that I could apply for a scholarship. So when I was here, when I started studying at Sri Ram Bharatiya Kala Kendra with Priyambada Patnaik, she was my Odissi guru for 4 years. So I also enrolled in Mayurvansh Chhau dance. The first years were, my main focus was Odissi because I had come also on the scholarship. But throughout that period of those 4 years, my focus started shifting. Mainly because I discovered a very strong connection with the dance. It was a very special mix, very special combination between dance and martial arts, which was something which had always appealed to me. So I found that in this practice, there was a combination of the masculine and the feminine energy. And that was basically what I was looking for, and what really, really motivates me. So before I continue, this is like a small introduction about myself. And so before I continue, I have to, of course, name my guru. He is Janmejay Sai Babu, and maybe 2 years back, he received the Sangeet Natak Academy Award. And I'll be telling you a lot about him through this talk, because of course he's there in every step. But what I have to acknowledge something which is very important for me, and which has allowed me to have such a faith in him. I see that he is a person that he breathes Chhau. He lives Chhau. He doesn't have many ambitions in life. He is just constantly thinking about Chhau, 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 Chhau. Whenever he wakes up, he thinks about movements. During the day, he's thinking what he can do, and not in the most, what you could say, productive way, but he just lives it. and he lives it with a passion so totally that he really motivates me. And for that, of course, I have to just bow down to him and say pranam. And also pranam to my first guru in Colombia, Omar. And also pranam to so many people from whom I've learned here in India, including the people from the dancers from Uttar Sahi in Mayurbhanj, especially Shambhu Das, Loknath Das. He's a very special friend and for me a notable dancer. To all that team, also to all the dancers from Dakhin Sahi with whom I've had just the pleasure to interact very briefly. Also to the dancers from Rairangpur in Mayurbhanj, in the Mayurbhanj district also. Guru Trilochan Mohanto, who was very important in when I started learning Natraj, which is an item based on Lord Shiva, which is basically my favorite item. Pranam to him. Thank you so much for everything that I've learned from him. Pranam also to Achintya Kumar Behera from Mayur Art Center in Bhubaneswar, and to the boys from there with whom I've also shared briefly, but they've also shared with me many things. And pranam also to Guruji's sons, Rajesh Sai Babu, Rakesh Sai Babu. In my starting years, we were quite a team, and we also learned a lot together. Okay, so now I think we can start talking about Chhau and what is this? First, before going into Mayurbhanj Chhau, first we have to come into what is this thing called Chhau. So it starts with being a family of 3 dances. One dance which is represented in West Bengal, which is the Purulia Chhau dance. One dance which is represented in Jharkhand in Saraikela, which is Saraikela Chhau. And then one dance which is represented in Odisha in the Mayurbhanj district, which is Mayurbhanj Chhau. Okay, but why Chhau? Like, what does this word mean? Where does it come from? And how these 3 dances that are in different places, how can they be one same dance form? So we have one common origin, okay, but there are different ways to interpret the meaning of this word Chhau. So one of them is Chadmo based. And sorry please for the if I make any mistake in the pronunciation. So this means disguise. And the part of the disguise, we can see it very well in the Purulia style. Starting from their masks, which are really, really big, and also all their getup. They also attach arms, sometimes like legs, different things. So the disguise is a little bit complex in Purulia Chhau. Then we have Chaya, which means shadow. And this part would represent what the energy of Saraikela Chhau is like. Okay, so in Saraikela Chhau, they also wear a mask, but this is a very small mask. It's a very different mask, than the one from Purulia. And basically, all the energy of the dance is a little bit like, it feels like it's a little bit concealed. Even the instrument, the shehnai, which is the main instrument that gives the melody in Saraikela Chhau, it has a sound which is a little bit captivating, and it gives you that feeling of like something which is more dark, which is more hidden. Then we come to Mayurbhanj Chhau. That Chhau comes from the word Chhauni, which means military cantonment. And so in Mayurbhanj Chhau, we don't wear masks because we give more priority to that, to the vigorous movements, to that display of attack and defense in many parts, and especially in the martial art items. And so that is why the mask has been removed from the Mayurbhanj style. Okay, so nobody can say for sure, okay, yes, this is the meaning of Chhau. It means Chadmoves, it means Chhaya, it means Chhauni. But all these three meanings, they are inside of this word. There's also a theory that it comes from the number Cha, which means 6. And curious enough, I mean, not curious, it's not a coincidence. In Chhau, there are many things related to this number. So we have 6 chalis. There are 6 stages of the dance. And like this, there are different correspondences to the number 6. So that is another theory. One thing which leaves us at a disadvantage a little bit. In Chhau, we don't have much written record. I mean, scholars have tried to investigate and bring as many facts as possible, but many things we just can't say for certain. Okay, this is this. Yeah, this is this. Yeah, this dance was born in this century. And it comes exactly from this. No, there is actually no factual origin for this dance. But throughout the study of the dance, I think that you can reach to some interpretation of where it comes from, and actually the dance starts kind of revealing and talking and saying what is basically its substance. So today we're going to talk about this tradition in a transition, because so for me, I feel that art is growing, art is moving, right? Art is something which cannot stand still. It is flowing. We don't dance the same as how we danced so many years back. It moves forward with a society, with a culture. However, for it to be able to move forward, it has to be able to look back and to recognize its essence. So what I would like to get across here, or just explore with these words, is how we can do that, how we can come to know about the roots of Chhau, about what is the essence of Chhau, Mayurbhanj Chhau especially, and how from there we can go with the needs that it has for today's world, for today's dance field, for today's art field. And thinking or talking about the origin, so we have to go back to one very important point. And this is the royal system, royalty, okay? The king system in Odisha. So more than 200 years back, maybe 600 years back. There have always been dynasties, right? And in Odisha, since the Gajapati dynasty, the land was distributed in different ways, but Saraikela and Purulia, what is now these two places, they were under the same administration. They were not divided into one state, another state, and another state. They were actually one whole state. And in these states, so there was the monarchy system. There were the kings. And beneath them, then there were feudatory chiefs, which were basically landowners and which had their own feudal system in their lands. And then from their lands, of course, they had to protect they had to protect the lands, and they had to protect the frontiers so that other invaders would not come to take their lands. So these feudal chiefs appointed different families of soldiers to those frontier lands. And these families of soldiers, you could say that they are like the first Chhau dancers, because of course, as soldiers, they needed to train, they needed to be fit, they needed to be strong, they needed to have everything that a warrior needs to have in order to fight off any enemy. And the gymnastics that they used to practice and the khel, the tharikela, sword play that they used to practice is basically, what we do nowadays is derived from those movements, from what they practiced. So these frontier soldiers, we can call them paikos. Apart from these paikos, which come from the feudal chiefs and the kings, we can say that they are all from the Kshatriya caste, the warrior caste. Inside that warrior caste, there are also many other divisions of castes. And according to the caste that they had, some of them were specialized, for example, in the use of the sword. Khandait. The Khandait, it says, the name says that their emblem is the sword. The Paiko, on the other hand, it says that their emblem is the shield. And then there were others whose emblem, for example, was the archers. And then another caste group, which was a little bit beneath them and was more dedicated to farming. That group, among that group, there is a caste which is called the Buyans. And even though they were farmers, they were mainly farmers. However, they were actually the first ones who brought a martial tradition to Odisha, because they had a very strong connection to Lord Shiva. They were devotees of Lord Shiva in the form that they used to worship in those days, in a very tribal form, very, very rural form. And there's a nice legend that says, so once this tribe was invaded by some other tribe, and so after that, one of the leaders of the tribe, he had a dream. And in this dream, he dreamt that Lord Shiva came to him as a person and he said, you need to learn the martial arts, and you need to do it with a sword, you need to do it with a shield, and you need to do these movements. And he basically gave him a lesson in martial arts in the dream. And then he told them, and you shall have a practice space which is called an akhada. So from there, these special training arenas, which still are there today, which is called the akhada, like the gymnasium, the place where you practice, it is coming from that much back. And this is like the tribal origin. These were basically the peoples who were more inside of the forests, because Mayurbhanj is a land of mountains and forests. So also that makes, that also makes the people be more vigorous and have more strength. So these groups, these different caste systems, though all of them were different, and though all of them had, like different status, and then of course there were the kings who were the highest of them, but they were very proud and very conscious of their positions as warriors, of their Kshatriya duties and castes and values. So you can see that in this land, there's just like a really powerful, very strong martial energy, what we call like a warrior ethos, like a calling toward that. So this is what the scholars say that is the origin, the martial origin of Chhau. Okay, and well, personally, I think we cannot disagree upon this, because it is something which is there in the dance, and it is actually the base of the dance, the gymnastics, the preparation, and also the martial movements. Now, then there's another theory that some people have said that it's the main purpose of Chhau, or the main reason why Chhau has come to be a dance. And for me, it's also partly right, and this is the religious aspect. And the religious aspect comes into play when we talk about the Chaitra Parv. So now we're going back to like 1820. Before 1820, during the time of Ram Navami, which falls usually in the month of Chaitra, which is April here, so you have this festivity which is really important for agriculturally speaking. It's really an important moment to start the farming season. So of course, being in the religious aspect, it's a very important time. It's a very auspicious time. So before 1820s, 1800s, during this period, there was the king used to hold a festival or a dance called Ram Navami Nata. So they used to dance, and they used to represent stories basically from Ramayana, Mahabharata. So in these stories, of course, being from these epics, they would also represent battles and the heroic characters, different characters. They would use masks to represent the different characters. This was the dance which at that moment was being held there. We cannot say that is actually the Chhau, which is the Chhau from today. Okay, the Chhau from today maybe it had its roots from there, which its roots also came. So how did they get inspired to imitate the martial movements, or which martial movements would they imitate when they would represent any fight during the dance? Of course, they would have to look at their military men, at the people who were actually doing it. So then that is a connection between that martial origin and then the religious happening during that time of Ram Navami. And so because of this really special occasion, which is the Chaitra Parv, so the kings started taking more interest in setting up like a very special way to celebrate this moment. And it was said, so during 1862. So 1820s, right? First period where kind of things in Chhau start coming into like a first moment of what we can call Chhau. Then we come to 1862 with the second monarch from the Bhanj dynasty. Okay, from 1820s with Bhanj dynasty starts, Mayur Bhanj. So 1862. Then this monarch, who was the brother of the first one, Jadunath Bhanj Dev. This monarch, Krishna Chandra Bhanj Dev, he went to Saraikela, which was again in the same kingdom, but someone else was ruling that kingdom, right? But it was in the same it was under the same land, same dominion basically. And over there, the dance had already started. That same dance, no, not that same dance. That martial expression had already started taking form in Saraikela. And when this Maharaja went to Saraikela and saw that, he said, this is very special. I think, we should have this in Mayurbhanj. We should. So he brought two Ustad to Mayurbhanj from there, and he divided them into two styles. So one style, northern style, Uttar side. One style, another style, southern style, Dakhin side. So from there we can say, okay, first attempt at something which is starting to be consolidated as Chhau. And so from here, they started developing more techniques and more body language and more movements and more ways to interpret those body languages and to represent, so that they could be represented during that festival, during the Chaitra Parv. And the dance, basically that energy, that momentum just starts happening. It starts happening, and then art starts to, art is born, and it just has an energy of itself, and it starts to develop, and it starts to grow by itself. And this family, so the Bhanj family, they were very, very big devotees of Lord Shiva and Ambika. So in Mayurbhanj you have those two, those two energies, the worship of Shiva and the worship of the mother, Ambika. And so what would happen basically was that the dance, in these 2 nights of the Chaitra Parv, the dance would play a very important part so that the people could stay awake during these 2 nights before Vishub Sankranti, which happens on 14th April, and which is that auspicious day on which after the farming season begins. So so the people would stay awake. The dance was there so that the people would be alert, would stay awake, while in the palace and in the temples, all the praying, all the rituals and all the worship would be going on. So then this is what we can call the religious aspect. So some people give more weight to that religious aspect. They say, no, Chhau is a dance form because of the Chaitra Parva rituals, and martial origin is just, like some side part of it. Other people say, no, first it was the martial origin and then it came to connect with the Chaitra Parva. Basically, I see that both of them are equally important. We cannot have Chhau without that martial energy, that martial aspect, the essence. We cannot have without it. And we can also not have without the connection to that spirituality, to that worship, which is key, it's a key element of the dance. Guruji always says that if you are not a devotee, you cannot do this dance. And he would also say that many gurus, they would say that if you don't make this promise, if you don't make a promise like to Lord Bhairav, to Lord Shiva, and if you don't truly go through that process, which process of training and which finishes in Chaitra Parv, then bad things can happen to you. Like, they were very superstitious about this. Some of them said that you can even die in the attempt. Like, if you are not true in how you dance, you can even die in the attempt. So there is a very strong religious belief behind this, and also starting from the fact that, like, when a practitioner would start his training in Chhau, it would happen on the day of Dussehra. And this tradition comes back to those tribals who also used to worship Lord Shiva, and who used to have these really important rituals during Dussehra. So the process, the initiation starts from there, Dussehra, and then the training period goes 6 months until April. And it culminates basically in the Chaitra Parv. And then you have several months in which actually the dancers would not dance. They would return to their homes and continue their farming, continue their different occupations, whatever they were. Most of the dancers were farmers. Whenever they were not in the palace dancing and preparing, during those 6 months, they would stay in the palace, because the kings were so fond of the dance that they brought it into their palace, and they made the palace its home. And it was actually where the dance was presented. During the Chaitra Parva, it was presented inside the palace itself. So the dancers used to live for 6 months in the palace, and then after that they would go and they would continue for about 4 or 6 months, their farming life, their family life, whatever, again to come back on Dussehra, make a promise, tie a string to say, I am committed to this dance and I will practice with my heart and soul until the next Chaitra Parv. So why is it important to know about this? But basically, it's the roots, and you cannot fly if you don't have your feet on the ground. And this is something which really makes me think and makes me reflect, because so the dancers in Odisha, the dancers in Mayurbhanj, especially in Rairangpur, in other districts of Mayurbhanj, in other districts, other villages of Mayurbhanj, they are more close to these traditions. They are more, it is something that they've lived with for a long time. They've been in touch with that, and they celebrate it every year and every year and every year. However, when we come to the city and when we see what the process of the dance is like in the city, we see that it is basically cut off. It's cut off from that initial purpose of why we dance, okay? Just like, for example, in the classical dances, the purpose of dancing was to please God. The dancers, the Devadasis, they used to dance in the temples. So that divine purpose was there. Similarly, in Chhau, it was as a service to the land, as a service to the king. So I find that this is something which really we have to first get to know about. All dancers, we should get to know about where does it come from, and then we should start seeing how we can incorporate this in our practice, because if we don't recognize these rituals, these traditions, then we are ignoring one part of the dance, and hence we are kind of cutting part of its essence, and that essence has to be kept in order for the dance to develop. Otherwise the dance will change. So we've looked at the traditions, and we've seen how important they can be. Now, one more thing which is really important, and which is really interesting to talk about, is basically the body language. Okay, and so I'm kind of doing a comparison between what happens in Odisha, in Mayurbhanj, and what happens in the city, and especially in Delhi, because you can say that it's one of the places where it's more present in India. It's definitely, you can say, the place where after Odisha and then Saraikela and Purulia, in Delhi you have Chhau is there, right? But how Chhau is here? How is it portrayed? How is it done? So I'm taking these parallels and these comparisons not to say that one is better than the other, or one is wrong or one is correct, but just to reflect, just to see what is happening in one place, what is happening in another place, and basically how these can come together, because that is what we need. And as I said before, okay, we need to find the essence. We need to search for that essence. What is Chhau? Okay, only then can the art go forward and grow. So the body language. One very important thing about this is that the connection to nature. So of course, coming from a place like Mayurbhanj, nature is there. I mean, the dance developed in the nature, and it developed also mirroring nature, like many other practices. And it's very special because, so mirroring nature, it developed 3 types of energies. One is the Kalibhanga, the softest style. So that is compared like to a twig, the softest end of a twig or of a leaf, the tip of the leaf, the softest part. Then we have the Kalikata Hatiyar Dhara, which is, you could say, maybe the branch, a little bit thicker branch. So it can sway, it can move with the wind. It's not stuck, it's not stiff, but it's also not hanging all the time. It has its support. And then we have the trunk of the tree, and that is the Hatiyar Dhara. And Hatiyar Dhara, like the name says, it's when you hold a weapon. So when you hold a weapon, you are as strong, as firm as that trunk of a tree. When you portray the Kalikata Hatiyar Dhara, you are as supple, but with that control, as a branch of a tree. And when you portray the Kalibhanga style, you are as soft, as feminine, as that flower or that leaf that just with a light breeze, it moves. So from watching the nature, the gurus were transmitting this to their disciples. And not only from watching, also from practicing in the nature. So Chhau has a very deep connection to water. And that water element is represented in how the torso moves. And it's really, really interesting because the dancers used to practice in the water itself. They were in the morning, they would do their running exercises, jumping exercises on the bank of the river, which of course that mud helps them develop more strength to jump, to be light. And then they would go inside the river, and then they would start practicing the different dhev movements, the different wavy movements, okay? So whether it was this, whether it was thrusts, whether it was side movements, side to side. So water, that they were coming into the water was coming into them. It was a very natural connection. And of course, the people from the dancers from the villages also still have that advantage of perceiving nature in a very close way, because many of them are also farmers, because many of them are they have to milk the cows. They're basically more in touch with that environment. Whereas what happens when here in the city, we don't come to Chhau from that, giving into nature, from that, that relaxation, that natural, very, very natural feeling, natural, but at the same time, very like a straight posture, very aligned posture, basically. So what happens when different types of bodies come into the dance? So bodies that have, gone to the gym, been training in modern dance, or been training in other martial arts, or been training in other things. What happens with those bodies when we are also not directed towards that energy that we need to consider when we are doing Chhau? because we need to consider it. So it's with Guruji, we've had different rides, you know, up and down through the years, and it's been sometimes good and it's been sometimes really, really tough, really hard. And one of these tough times was when so Guruji stopped teaching at Sri Ram Bharatiya Kala Kendra. He resigned from there, and so what are we going to do? We don't have a place to practice anymore. What are we going to do? Where are we going to practice? And for Guruji, that has never been a problem, because he says, we'll go to the park, practice the park. Park is there. And for many years, I practiced in the park. And it was basically that connection to nature. It was going there and just that sand or that mud or that grass, allowing you to have that connection to the earth. And then you see a crow, you see the crow that comes and lifts, and Guruji says, you see that? This is Uska Chali. So Uska Chali is that movement where you go and you come up. So there's a dipping down and going up. So when we can have these references, these actual references, when we can see like that metaphor of the tree, when he talks about water, how the torso is supposed to move. When we can have basically that reference, then something else happens. Then we actually do have a connection. Then we are actually learning Chhau, or attempting to learn Chhau, to start having that connection, to start discovering that connection to nature within ourselves. Because for me, when I see, for example, the boys in Mayurbhanj, how they move their chest or how they do this chamak movement, chamak, it's really evident, it's really obvious that there is that different quality of movement. And we definitely, here in the city, we definitely need to be more aware of that element in the style, the element in the style, which is really, really, really important. Okay. So yeah, I knew that this would happen. I mean, I really thought that something like this would happen, because I have so many things to say, so many things to share. This is a really very vast universe, this dance, as any art form. Okay. And so I would like to finish with this, on this note, that the dance is growing and is evolving out of its birthplace, which is Mayurbhanj. It's growing, it's evolving, and it needs to grow and it needs to evolve. It cannot stay just as that dance which is done only in the celebration. It has already gone off from there. I mean, it has already come out from Mayurbhanj. And now that it has come out, what can we do so that we can keep the essence, but at the same time, we can actually do something in the direction of the growth and the evolution and the refinement of the dance, but something which cannot be disconnected from the origin. Okay, so that is basically my thesis, and like my point of support whenever I'm practicing, whenever I'm doing any performance, so how to present this in a way which, of course, it's different from that original thing which happens there in Mayurbhanj. It's definitely different, because there it's in its local context. But here it has to change. It has to be presented in a different way. However, how to keep the connection? So I would like to end on that note. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching. Yes, many things are left unsaid. And I hope I can come back and continue sharing this journey. And once again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for hosting this Shreshth Kala Sangam. And once again, pranam to my gurus, pranam to all the Chhau dancers, because just the fact that you are there, that you are dancing, that you can, you are giving some small seed, some small contribution to this art form. So thank you so much, and namaste.